Is Broadway back? Let's discuss. Hey friends, if you're new here, my name is Katharine Quinn. I am a 30-something living in New York City and working on Broadway. Last year, I worked on Shucked and How to Dance in Ohio. I was working on the writing teams of those shows. We've done a pivot this year, a boo surprise. I am running social media for The Great Gatsby on Broadway, as well as The Roommate on Broadway, other shows TBD. And today, we are going to talk about the breakdown of the Broadway League's 2023-2024 season report. In case you aren't aware, the Broadway League is a trade organization that represents many producers, touring venues across the country, and every single year they compile all of the demographics for the season and release, at the very least, a press release and at most a very comprehensive report. So we've had comprehensive reports of who is going to see Broadway shows, how much money we're making on Broadway, how many shows are running on Broadway, how many shows opened this year, how many performances, etc. We had comprehensive reports from 2017 to 2023. They've not released, at least not on the website, a comprehensive report from 2024. If someone has access to one, you let me know because I love reading it. She's a nerd. But we do have some bullet points and I would love to discuss this. I did a similar video last year breaking down the 22-23 report and what it meant. And if you want to backtrack and look at that by comparison, I went into some deeper dives because of the research report. You can watch that video up here. So here are some of the quick and dirty facts. 52 weeks in the season, 1,471 playing weeks, which is comparable to the number of playing weeks from last year, 1,474 playing weeks last year. The total attendance on Broadway in 2023-2024 season was 12,287,708 people. Okay, before I tell you, please write in the comments if you think that is higher or lower than last season. Then I want you to tell me if that is the same amount higher or lower than pre-pandemic. It's a tiny uptick from last season, like truly nominal, like 4,000 people different. That's like a 2-show day for Wicked, okay? Boo! Let's talk about capacity. Compared to the 2018-19 season, which was the last normal season that we had before the shutdown, we were down comparatively this year by 2.5 million people, which is about 17%. We had the same overall average capacity in our houses at about 89%, and really over the last however many years, the last 5 years or so, capacity has hovered anywhere from 88 to 90%, so that's really pretty much on par. There were more productions in 23-24 versus 18-19, so we have higher churn rate of shows than we did pre-shutdown, and our gross is lower. So we're lower than the previous year by $35 million, but compared to 18-19, we're down $300 million in grosses, which is a bummer. Something that's interesting to note is the ATP, or average ticket price, has not kept pace with inflation from 2018-19 season to now. So the ATP is the same, $125 pre-fees, which is very expensive. So I just did an inflation calculator. If in 2018, I purchased an item for $125, then in 2024, that same item would cost $156.39. So a cumulative rate of inflation just in the last 6 years of 25%. We have not been able to command those kinds of prices. That's with Merrily. That's with Cabaret too, but not a year of Cabaret. So I think things will change a little bit looking at our numbers. And also we've got a lot of prestige shows like Audra and Gypsy coming in 24-25, so I think it's gonna look better next year. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting to note that audiences are not willing to pay more. I've got a lot of hypotheses about why that is. I love Broadway performers. I love Broadway so much. It's why I have this whole platform and channel and why I work on Broadway. And also I've said time and time again, and I have a video about it right up here, about how the experience of Broadway is not meeting the cultural demands of 2024 or the need for comfort in 2024 or meeting the moment or the bodies or the accessibility or the experience that people want in 2024. And I think that is being so vastly overlooked. I think that if the experience were better, more folks would be likely to return. I have so many thoughts about this and we can unpack later, but there's sort of a pervasive thought that I've heard a lot amongst Broadway marketers that it's basically impossible to bring in new audiences. And so that's why you hear everybody being okay, well that show's closing, we're just gonna pull from that audience or this audience, which to me is a bonkers scarcity mindset. And I recognize that I'm marketing newbie on the block, but again, Times Square sees 400,000 tourists every single day. If every single Broadway show were at 100% capacity, it would be about 38,000 butts and seats per performance. So we need 1/10 of the foot traffic already in the theater district, already in the neighborhood at Times Square. Broadway has a brand problem. Again, another video about that here. Broadway has a brand problem, so if people knew what they could get for their money, and if we also improved the experience, the trappings surrounding the incredible work that we're seeing on stage, and we reached out to new audiences, I think that we would be able to command higher prices or a higher average ticket price. So my thing is like, sure, charge $900 a seat at Merrily as long as you also still have 25 lottery seats for students or $25 rush seats or whatever it is. It's like, give me the breadth of seats. Like, yes, sure, if you are a gajillionaire and you want to spend your $900 to see Daniel Radcliffe, blessings, my friend, support the arts. Thank you so much. As long as we can make sure that like normal plebes can also see Daniel Radcliffe and merrily we roll along, you know what I'm saying? Broadway folks think that Broadway is for Broadway people and that being on Broadway is enough of an advertisement for the people that want to see a Broadway show, when in fact we desperately need to be like, everything is so siloed. It's like this show and this show and this show and this show. When it's like, you look at the map, and all 41 theaters are within this one radius. And we aren't advertising Broadway. We're advertising all these individual shows, but it's not necessarily a rising tide lifting all boats. We need a comprehensive Broadway marketing campaign. Very, very badly. Very, very badly. We're all fighting for attention at this time. We should have done a partnership with the Olympics. Like we're fighting for attention. We need to know like, what is the experience of going to see a Broadway show in 2024? But frankly, before we advertise what that experience is, we need to improve what that experience is. So step 1, improve the Broadway experience. Step 2, advertise the new and improved Broadway experience, plus all the old familiar trappings that you know and love, and incredible, otherworldly athletics and performances. The other thing that I just want to address is that we do not have the same number of like stable shows in the Broadway marketplace. We've got like what people refer to as the big four. So let's see if we can do this. I guess it's Wicked, Aladdin, Lion King, and Hamilton. I guess, but also Chicago, which doesn't bring in a lot of revenue, but has been around forever. Anyway, theater owners are not incentivized to keep shows in their theaters because there's always a tenant waiting in the wings, and I wish that that weren't the case. I wish it behooved theater owners to have long-running shows and that there weren't such high turn rate in terms of what shows we were putting on Broadway. I mean, the good news is that like tons of new work is making it on Broadway, but it's also, is that still great if it's only on Broadway for like 2 to 10 months tops, which is sort of the way that it's been over the past several years. Advertising agencies also not super incentivized. I am a baby marketer, and so I get very attached to the projects that I'm working on, which isn't to say that big agencies don't. I'm sure everyone has their darlings. Basically, I just wish that we had more longer running shows. It's also an issue in terms of branding because I've gotten addicted to Broadway Reddit recently. I do not post as a hard and fast rule on any message boards ever. If you're ever wondering if Katharine Quinn posts on those, the answer is, but I do lurk on occasion. And bless someone's heart, someone today or the last couple of days, I just was scrolling while I was at the dog park earlier today, and someone was like, oh my gosh, is Beetlejuice not on Broadway anymore? And I was like, something I hear over and over and over again for people who follow me who live out of town or out of the country is by the time they have awareness of a show, it has closed. Like a lot of the time people are learning about shows from closing notices, as opposed to like, I mean, that's a problem in terms of marketing and a problem in terms of longevity of shows and churn rate. It all plays into, it goes like this. It goes like this. Sorry, I know I'm being so eloquent right now, and I feel so passionate about this if you can't tell. But basically, the moral of the story is it wasn't the best year for Broadway. It was an okay year for Broadway, and we're not back. And we weren't even recouping pre-pandemic. Recouping is making all of its money back. Pre-pandemic, only 8 out of 10 Broadway shows made their money back, and since shutdown, I think we've announced a handful. I'll throw up an article here. And Juliet was the most recent one of shows that have recouped since shutdown. So like, it's a tough time for Broadway, but there are some very clear pain points to me that I hope that we address. I don't think it's a time for us to be like, we just don't know why audiences aren't returning. It's like, I feel like we have some clear indicators of some things that we could all work on. Is it easy? No. Am I able to do this by myself? No. I'm gonna do what I can and raise awareness and have conversations with people on the internet and do as much as I can on the individual shows that I represent and the conversations I have in the community. But it is going to have to be a very, very global effort. Global in terms of the community, because there's a lot of work to be done. And I hope it happens because your girl loves Broadway so stinking much. I, as always, do not want to be talking into a vacuum. I am so here for conversation, so please leave your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, it means so much to me and actually does help me so much if you like, comment, and or share and or subscribe. If you want to be an A+ student, do all 3. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.